Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of IMC, I welcome you all to Indian Mobile Congress 2023. The session we have today in this hall number 5 is Building Cyber Resilience in the New Digital Age, and the session partner for this is Fortinet and Ingram Micro. To start with, I request Lieutenant General M.U. Nair, who is National Cybersecurity Coordinator, Government of India, to introduce us to the session and throw some light on this topic and share his valuable, his views on this. So over to you, sir. I request you to please come.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's wonderful to be here back at the IMC. Last year also I spoke as in a different, I was at a different appointment at that point of time, and I was a signal officer in chief of the Indian Army, and I spoke during the IMC. We even had the Chief of Army Staff who had come and visited the IMC last year. Fellow panelists, it's my honor actually to be part of this particular session, and I know that you're all practitioners on this domain. And as a policy maker at the National Security Council Secretariat, it's my honor to speak to each one of you and address you on certain issues. I'm sure you would have heard the Prime Minister today morning. He spoke, I think I was told that about 2 minutes he spoke on the cyber security itself. That shows the importance, that this particular field is to the nation today. With our nation digital landscape transforming to a completely networked domain, and with multiple services to our citizens being made available through our service providers, it's essential that we look at threats and risks that can emerge, which can have an impact not only on impacting on our citizens, but also our country's security fabric. So that's the reason why we keep mentioning it, that cybersecurity today is an integral part of national security. So that's the theme with which we are taking this and the importance we are giving to cybersecurity. Comprehensive national power is a function of multiple elements, ranging from military capabilities, political stability, financial vibrancy, energy security, health and wellness of our citizens, vibrancy of our science and technology ecosystem, etc., etc. Actually, comprehensive national power implies a lot of components of national power. And all elements which I had mentioned, as also many which can also be attributed to national power, is connected through the umbrella of cyber today, cyber landscape. And that's where a small breach or a small vulnerability in any of these particular, in the cyberspace which we have, will have a great impact on our national security. We have the networks ranging from terrestrial to radiating to space-based to a large device ecosystem to the applications developed using these networks and devices, they all reach the users. I've also included data storage, be it in a cloud or on premise, as part of the networks. There could also be air-gap networks, which are, segregated from the public networks, which also need to be part of our national security ecosystem. And they can't claim that by being merely air-gap or physical segregation will give them the requisite cyber security. That's something which it's a fallacy. Any small breach or vulnerability in any of the large ecosystem can impact on any of the elements of comprehensive national power. And that's why we consider cyber security for being an integral part of national security. As a routine and part of government machinery or any commercial organization, one doesn't feel the significance of security of cyberspace as a key result area. Investments, resource allocation in this area, therefore, is minimal, with the implications not being thought of or considered while planning and discussing prospective plans and financial goals and results. We are perhaps ignoring the single most factor that can freeze all our digital assets, impacting every citizen, not only of our country, but all across the world, the dividends of our efforts being globally accepted now. Any commercial organization, public or private, can be crippled due to a cyber breach, affecting the services and society at large. We have seen multiple manifestations of the same, not only in our country, but across the globe, and such cyber incidents are only increasing. On an average, the number of cyber incidents that's reported in our country is approximately 2168. That's the average which we have calculated over the last 6 months. And this is much higher than the global average of 1164. And many such incidents go unreported because there are agencies which may not even report cyber incidents, but maybe advertently or inadvertently. There are, the cyberspace has malware today in the form of information stealers, rats, ransomware, etc. And over 58% of the malicious files in cyber domain have actually been delivered through the web in our country in the last 6 months. Crypto mining attacks are also on the rise in our country. Today, our efforts to strengthen the cybersecurity revolves around multiple ministries and organizations, and we are working towards enhancing coordination through promulgation of a national cybersecurity strategy at the earliest, and an increased situational awareness on cyberspace in the country through strengthening the National Cyber Coordination Center. As service providers bringing in internet traffic into and out of the country, there's a need to ensure constant monitoring through an effective mechanism in the respective networks of the service providers. While the TSOCs, the CERTIN, the NCIPC, and the NCCC can share threat intelligence and warn you or advise you on a responsive mechanism, you need to look at your own respective NOCs and SOCs, identifying vulnerabilities and plugging them. We have the National Security Directive on Telecom Security, which will ensure effective checks on supply chain vulnerabilities. The scope of National Security Directive on Telecom will increase over the next few years, where we will ensure that every device that gets connected to a network or hardware or software used are all from trusted source and is a trusted product. We propose to have the device being connected to a network to be in our ecosystem. We are looking at having all devices which are connected to an ecosystem for being either from a trusted source or a trusted product by about 2027. That's what we anticipate. At the device ecosystem level, we have to ensure that they are also free from vulnerabilities, as also the app ecosystem which rides our networks. Many of our threats are within the capability of the network providers to tackle today, provided they monitor the network regularly for vulnerabilities, enhance their expenditures on R&D in cybersecurity domain. A large number of projects on cyberspace have also been carried out by the various ministries, including my own organization, the NSCS. And they are all available to you as users. We also are ready to take on any fresh proposals for R&D in this domain, which can assist you in your enhancing cybersecurity posture. We are looking at post-quantum cryptology, quantum key distribution, quantum computers, etc., as opportunities, and looking for research and development in these domains, even through international cooperation. While a lot of work is taking place in this field in our country, we are trying to create an info repository of all developments through a common platform called the Tech Saga, which has been steered by the DSCI. In fact, many critical areas in which research is being carried out in our research institutions, the startups, and organizations having products indigenously developed to support our initiatives in technology domain, especially in critical areas of technology, are part of the Tech Saga initiative. As a nation, we are constantly engaged in battles to safeguard our sovereignty and security, as also privacy from intrusive and anonymous threats, both in physical domains as also in virtual domains. As I had mentioned earlier, India ranks amongst the top 3 cyber-targeted nations in the world today, and it's a result of our vibrant and expanding digital public infrastructure. The predominant forms of cyber attacks, which I had mentioned, mainly are breaches, identity theft, financial theft, etc. Targeted cyber attacks on national resources and critical infrastructure have become more vigorous, with these attacks having the potential to jeopardize our security, national security, as also our social well-being. The reported cases of cyber attacks, as I had mentioned, is just a tip of the iceberg. Actual figures are likely to be much higher, since a lot of incidents, as I had mentioned, goes unreported. We also need to consider threats like ransomwares and supply chain infections, which have made the challenge more complex and acute. Ransomware attacks have emerged as a major cybersecurity threat, especially against critical infrastructure, which can have a major impact on utility services to our citizens, besides impinging on public safety as also security. while we have several measures undertaken at multiple levels to maintain integrity of our supply chain focused on our networks, a lot more needs to be done. And our approach towards achieving self-reliance in the ICT sector, supported by a strong regulatory and legal framework, can be the ideal way ahead. We also need to avoid fragmented approach to dealing with cybersecurity, multiple organizations in our country dealing with cyberspace, to be refined to adopt a more coordinated approach to improve our handling of cybersecurity incidents, improving security controls to ensure a resilient cyber ecosystem. Synergy, collaboration, and coordination is probably the best way forward. We also look towards the telecom service providers to be actively contributing towards efforts in making our cyberspace more secure. They all need to be part of the critical infrastructure and needs to initiate actions for enhancing the cybersecurity standards. The skill development framework for cybersecurity skills is something which is on the drawing table for quite some time. It should be out shortly, suitably aligned to global standards. We are also looking towards the growing necessity to train more professionals in cybersecurity domain. There's a need for academia to start capsules on cybersecurity as part of our BTech programs or graduation programs on computer science. I think we need to have specific capsules on cybersecurity as part of their syllabus or curriculum. The time is also ripe for a dedicated cybersecurity university, which can focus on imparting focused training to meet the growing demands of the industry and the government. We all need to sit and take notice of our cyberspace, an area of commonality connecting all pillars of developmental goals of our government and having an impact on every common citizen of our country. I'm sure our efforts together in this domain, while wholehearted participation of all citizens, the industry, the academia, and the whole of government approach to address cybersecurity challenges will help in making our cyberspace less vulnerable and more secure. Thank you, and Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir, for those valuable insights. With this, now I invite Vikas Raman from Fortinet, Vice President, to please come and share a keynote for this session.
Good morning, good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Nair. You set the right tone. And this is something which I would like to sort of share with you what we are seeing. And it was very coincidental to see how our Honorable Prime Minister today morning said, watch out for the troublemakers, right? And this is something which we want to share with you, what we are seeing in the Indian threat landscape. Who are the troublemakers and what are they up to? And what are the categories of them as well? So that will be a good start to interact with the audience as well. So briefly, when we really look at where India is moving towards, a decade back, we were 10th in the global economy. And when we look at now, we have number 5. And very soon we will take over to be the number 4 slot as well, right? And this has happened because of some of the very interesting progression what we have seen. And digital played a very important role in that progression. Whether it's connectivity, today we are having roughly about 500 million plus subscribers on the internet, and this is pegged to be reaching 900 million by 2025. And this is important because it's going to help people to drive more skill, better productivity per se. So connectivity is the backbone on which the digital platforms are being actually made. And when you look at the entire digital payment infrastructure, what India has created, it's a role model for all the other global economies. And I've seen Australian government asking us, what did you guys do in India, which is actually progressing it so very well? The Singapore government actually asking us, what is so special about UPI? Today, UPI has reached 10 billion transactions in a month. us to know what is this whole complexity, what Honorable Prime Minister today spoke about. Cybersecurity is a complex space, and we need to be aware of it. And he also fondly referred back to the G20, where cybersecurity was actually spoken a lot about. So let's look at what are the cybersecurity challenges, what we see. Broadly, three big areas. The first, we're seeing the increase in sophistication of attacks, and that's very important to know who are these people, why are they attacking it, what are the classification of it. And it's so important to understand the attackers and their motives behind. So we need to really double click on the sophistication of the attacks. The second big problem, what we see, is security awareness and talent shortage, which Mr. Nair actually touched upon. That's going to be a big skill gap which we need to actually close. And the whole security technology is becoming a lot more complex. And this is where Mr. Nair spoke about having a coordinated effort in terms of actually making together a security orchestration, your security operation center, your network operation center, to be strengthened out there. Let's spend a little bit time and understand on each one of these pillars. If you look at it, this is what we at Fortinet see. We are the #1 firewall vendors in the globe, both in terms of revenue and volume of shipments. We see a lot of attacks in the internet. What we see in the Indian space is roughly about 130 million viruses, bots, exploits, which we actually safeguarded because of our 20 years of presence in the Indian market per se. And if you look at it, which are the high-risk sectors where hackers are actually going after? It's manufacturing, government, technology, and FSI, which is the actual targeted segment from a hacker's point of view. And when we did our survey on our customers and the entire CIO and the CISO community, the cost of breach is actually going as high as about $1 million US. And this is the survey which actually did across the Indian landscape, and it's very scary to see the cost of the breach going much higher. And when we really look at, this is the complexity of the landscape we are dealing with. Who are the hackers and what are they behind? So if you really look at the hacking world, and when you really double click on that, there are three classifications of cyber criminals, what you will find. One, who actually builds the code. Second, who augments the code and then delivers. And the third one is actually the service enablers. So if you really look at the classification of all of this, there is a great big amount of networking which is happening among themselves. Today, cybercrime as a service is a reality. And this is something which we all need to be aware of. And let's take a little bit of double click on who are these people and what are the sectors. You know, it's very clear. These are the top advanced persistent threat groups attacking India. And the top groups, Transparent Tribe, and this is something which we collect from a threat research, from an intelligence point of view. This is the 40 Recon results which actually published on Q3. So if you really look at it, there are enough and more targeted group, and some of the top ones are Transparent Tribe, Earth Kadan, and these are the people who are actually targeting India from a cybercrime point of view. And moving forward, in terms of who are the sectors which are being widely affected, it's financial services, no wonder. But look at the second most important segment which is being attacked, which is education, aerospace and defense, e-commerce, telecom, transportation, and government tops the list with about 12 to 13%. And this is just the last quarter statistics per se. And when we flip over to actually who are the groups from a hacktivism point of view, right? And we see a good amount of groups coming from our hostile neighbors, and this is something which we need to track them. The reason why it is so important to understand these groups Lockbit has been very active against India, and the second most big ones is the Alpha Black Cat. These are the groups who are actually, targeting from an Indian landscape from a ransomware point of view. And each one of these groups have their own tools and techniques. And this is something which we need to understand that and mitigate specifically against them. So the second big challenge what we have is the skill gap. And when we did the survey from an Indian context, we saw 80% of the CIOs and the CISOs have actually told us it's the talent which is the hardest thing to solve today, 80% of them. And if you look at it, 51% of them are saying that my employees need to augment their skills. So the human element or the human free of cost. And we partnered in India with AICTE to drive 100,000 plus certification talent in India per se, free of cost. And this is an endeavor and a commitment from Fortinet side. The last piece, which is very important, to really look at the cybersecurity architecture. Today's challenges are driven because applications are distributed. Whether it's in the network, on-premise, cloud, endpoint, you really are going around the application agility. And today, networks are getting transformed because applications are becoming a lot more agile and the distributed nature of these applications. And today, users need to work from anywhere. And we all know hybrid workforce is a reality today, right? And this is actually adding the more complexity part of it. And if you really look at the more number of devices, and the people and the data volume is so humongous. And today we have numerous products, stacks, which is actually adding to this complexity. And I can say, one being a vendor, the number of vendors, security vendors in a large enterprise is today anywhere between 30 to 50 vendors. So if you really look at how to solve this complexity is to drive a platform-based approach, whereby across your multiple heterogeneous point products, actually doing point consoles and giving point alerts, customers are actually mired with console hopping and alert fatigue. The real silver bullet to solve this big problem of complexity in cybersecurity is to get into a platform-based approach. Not just one platform, but consolidate your platform across your endpoint, NOC and SOC, which Mr. Nair spoke about, and also look at how you amalgamate with 3 to 4 platforms. And this is where I want to leave this whole thought process, what Gartner actually came in and said of cybersecurity mesh, whereby you need to have a common approach of simplifying your security complexity with point products to actually have a mesh architecture, where each one of these security silos, instead of just communicating to your centralized SIEM, your ability to actually drive around identity, security orchestration, all of it in a collaborative way, whereby customer can detect attack faster, remediate faster, and bring in the level of automation which is required. So to solve the complexity, a platform-based approach is what we see customers actually adopting, and that's important. To summarize, these 3 big problems of sophisticated attacks, lead with threat intelligence, and skill-level programs, it's going to be a public-private partnership whereby we augment our capacity of cyber professionals which is required in India. And third, look at creating a platform-based approach instead of point products and silos. And to me, security, cybersecurity will be an accelerator for digital initiatives in the country. And we look forward for having more interactions. And thank you for the opportunity to share our insights back to this esteemed audience and the panel. Thank you.
With this, now I introduced you with Atul Gupta, who is going to be the moderator for this session. I request him to please come over and take the proceedings ahead. Thank you.
We'll give you opportunity to ask the questions. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Okay, thank you, and very good afternoon to everyone. Lieutenant General Nair, thank you so much for making those opening remarks. My good friend Vishak, you always floor the audience with all the statistics you bring across. Thank you for doing that. And my fellow panelists, thanks for joining us today and picking up on a topic which is so pertinent at this point of time. And it's been set up very well by Lieutenant General Nair, where he talked upon how cybersecurity is no longer just an area which is of importance for an industry. It's cutting across, and it's progressed further from there, where it's touching life of every human being and pretty much every citizen in the country where we are. A proud moment for us, but it also brings its downsides out over there. As Vishak talked upon, the nature of attacks are only increasing. And I just wanted to add a statistic. Being a consultant, I'll not do justice to myself if I don't add statistics out over here. World Economic Forum came across with a forecast saying the cybercrime market in 2023 is going to be the third biggest world economy. It's $8 trillion what is expected. And it came across recently, if any one of you followed, when a big hack happened or a cyber incident happened in one of the casinos in US. And it all started from one of the weakest links in the way that escalated, the privilege escalations happened. The casino shut down eventually, right? And one day shutdown of a casino, one could see the kind of a turnover impact was coming through. And eventually, I believe the authorities felt it's easier to pay out the ransom guys rather than going through the entire hassle. And I was quite impressed to see this happen in September, and October becomes one of the peak months for those casino to get their regular customers back into the hotels and being there up there. They were predicting that they're going to see a 2% dip. So cyber is really making an impact. A 2% dip for a casino of that size could be translated into multiple millions of dollars. That's a kind of an impact which is happening. And that's where this topic today really positions us very well, saying how do we be cyber resilient? These incidents are bound to happen. We cannot live in a world where we say we will protect, we will detect everything, and we will be able to respond in time without it having an impact. That world is behind us. We need to be picking upon our learnings from what the world came across in pandemic, where we said, how can we be resilient? And that's where we're going today forward on saying, how can we be cyber resilient in this digital connected world? Digital, according to, as Vishak also presented, digital has become a social fabric. Everyone is connected through digital. But simultaneously, cyber has cut across the strata of societies, and it's impacting everyone. And that's where it's a responsibility jointly for government, for enterprises, for every service provider to come together and contribute in making the world to be more cyber safe. So with that background, let's get started with the panel. We got great panel forum out over here, and maybe I can start with Varun. I was just sitting next to you, Varun, so I thought let me start with you. And Varun represents Airtel. He's the CISO of Airtel, so he obviously knows the pulse of what's happening, because everything happens on a connected platform, which goes through one of the telecom providers, and Varun being one of those has got a good sense. Varun, we're seeing increasingly the world getting more and more connected, and this is resulting in a term being used constantly called attack surface, which is increasing significantly. Can you just help us understand what's changed? What's the big shift which has happened? And in this shift, where does resilience really comes in?
Sure, so it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me, Atul. I think from my perspective, I kind of look at attacks in two ways, right? There are two mega trends that have really happened. The first one is the expansion of the threat surface because of the amount of devices on the network. Now, this could be because of 5G networks and IoT devices. A few years ago, COVID bringing everyone having to work from home, so more and more devices getting connected. And then another factor now is also artificial intelligence, which has really lowered the barrier of who can really attack at the end of the day, right? Earlier it took a fair bit of sophistication for someone to attack. Today I could just download that program and actually connect and do that attack, right? So there are these low-level areas which are causing a lot of havoc in the environment. And then there is really the weaponization of attacks, which are more your cyber warfare. Right? So we are seeing it across the globe in all the large places, right? Wherever there's war, weaponization of cyber started to happen. We saw that on Colonial Pipeline from an energy perspective, and then the supply chain attacks that have also happened. These are really the high-end and very sophisticated attacks, right? So I kind of, in my world, I look at it in these two ways. There's a lot of low-level attacks with the lower barrier, and then the high-level attacks. So how do we build in cyber resilience at the end of the day? From my perspective, gone are the days when we could just do the basics of implementing a particular technology or a particular type of control which could protect you from getting attacked. You're always going to get attacked. There is no company that has not been attacked. There's a common saying, right? You either know it, you've been attacked, or you don't know it, but you have been attacked at some point in time. So that is not enough. Then we also talked about detect and respond. How do you detect faster, respond faster? How do you have your SOC and your NOC being able to do that? That's your second layer of defense. And then it's your recover techniques, because at some point when you get attacked, and hopefully it's not a big attack, it is how are you able to get back up? Do you have your backup in place? Do you have your disaster recovery in place? Do you have your cyber war game, right? If you truly have a massive attack, have you practiced what you need to do in those cases? So I think there is no one particular approach that will protect you, right? You need to have a layered defense strategy. You need to have all these capabilities built in. I do just want to end my answer on a positive note, right? When cyber professionals talk, we talk in terms of everything that's going wrong, right? $2 billion. There was a recent identity provider who got hacked, and there was a $2 billion drop in their overall market value. But we never look at the positive, right? And we were just having this discussion earlier too. I mean, I look at the role of a CISO. The role of a CISO didn't exist 15 years ago. Right? Today, there are panels, there are discussions. The Prime Minister spent 2 minutes out of his 30-minute speech talking about cyber. There's so much more awareness. There's $20 million of investment that is going in from a venture capital funding just in cyber, right? So over the last 5 years, there's this significant amount of progress that we've also made in this industry. So I'm hoping that throughout the session, as we talk about what are the challenges, we don't forget that there's a lot of positives that is happening, a lot of that is improving. And I am generally a hopeful person, so I'll just say that as well.
Thank you. Thank you for making those comments. And the fraternity of cybersecurity completely agrees with you, Arun. There's a lot what they do which doesn't get reported. What gets reported is only the bad news. And that reminds me of one very famous quote which used to be discussed upon, saying, and I'm just building on what Varun said, a lot of organizations hired CISOs when they went through incidents. That's how the CISO community came into existence. But today it's gone to a next level where incidents have become a reality, as Varun said. Only two kinds of organizations, one who know and one who don't know. And when a big incident happens, you get to see that becomes a cause also many times for the CISOs to move out of the organization. So it's a very interesting journey in which we are, but there's huge positive side which cybersecurity brings upon. So thank you, Varun, for making those comments, opening comments. General Nair, I'll come to you later, but maybe I'll move forward. Srinivas, if I can bring you in. Srinivas represents Nokia. This is, while there are specificities for a country, but there's a lot to be learned globally, because this is a global warfare. And we are as much part of this as many other advanced nations are dealing with it. Are you seeing some measures which are emerging at the regulations at a global level, which is helping industry to move forward in a direction where resilience will become the way of life as we move ahead from here?
Thank you. That's a great question. I think what is actually happening is, and General Nair very much talked about it, there has been a clear awareness among the government organizations and the policy makers that cybersecurity is a major area to focus upon. What we see as we talk to several countries, their regulators, their country-specific cybersecurity regulations that are coming up. We talked about the National Cyber Center Directive, which was alluded to earlier. If you look at the US, there is Executive Order 14028, which was launched in 2021, which talks about the importance of critical infrastructure security. As we move into the As we cross the Atlantic and we move into the Europe, countries like France, where you see regulations from ANSI coming in. Then you move to the United Kingdom, you have the UK TSRs, the UK Center for Cybersecurity has launched TSRs. Now, one trend which we see across all the countries is telecom, utilities, power. These are some things which are identified as critical infrastructure by the countries. And the regulators are saying the traditional measures to secure your enterprise applications aren't really going to cut it when it comes to critical infrastructure.
Conversations to move forward. So great points being made out over there, and eventually saying that how can we learn together, but make sure that we look at it more holistic, where we bring the entire supply chain into the context. So thank you for making those points and making it resilient. Saurabh, if I was to move to you, and the world has changed quite dramatically. We heard from Varun saying how the connectivity has really empowered new ways of working. We heard upon the new regulations emerging across globally as well as in the country, which Srinivas talked upon. But Saurabh, what I would like you to talk today is, how's the implementation on the ground? Where are we? Is there a gap between where we want to be and where we are? And if yes, then what's the journey that we are taking at this moment?
Good afternoon to everyone. It's my pleasure to be present here with this excellent people who are involved in all cybersecurity issues. Well, friends, I'm a person who is involved in implementation of various kinds of solutions related to cybersecurity. First of all, I would just like to tell you that as General Nair has already pointed out, there is a exponential growth of cybersecurity incidents. And for that, as far as the entire concept and definition of resiliency gets changed. When we were discussing the cybersecurity resilience, it was basically protect and recover the data. But now it has completely modified, and you can say that it is to prevent, it is to analyze, and it is to recover, and then a complete solution for the, you can say, the entire vulnerabilities, recoveries has to be a part of this resilience solution. So we have to come out, first of all, and the most important aspect, while we are implementing these cybersecurity solutions in our organizations, we have to see what budget we have, what kind of information we want to secure. Because everyone can't make the separate data centers, as General Nair said, the air-gapped networks, one can't have that kind of networks. So we have to remain in our country in such a scenario where we have to see these cybersecurity threats and we have to overcome them. So we have to analyze and we have to classify the information which we want to save. We can say that whether it is a sensitive information or it is general information such as KYC information, and information which is completely harming an organization, which is damaging the entire reputation of the organization, can be highly sensitive data. So we have to come out with a complete, a total solution in a way that what kind of information we want to save. Let us say in government, if we are going to have is highly sensitive information, then we need surely a network of that nature which is totally cut off. But if we are passing certain information in a confidential manner, we can go ahead with a layered security approach as was just communicated by Airtel CISO. I would like to highlight that there, as far as while implementation of these layers, we have to categorize basically that whether the application security, data center security, network security, and endpoint security. So when we move to data center security, we have to see that we are completely secure, zones are created, we are completely secured through various east, west, north, south firewalls, VLANs are created. So in this way we can secure slightly our data center. And as far as network is concerned, as rightly pointed out just a few minutes before, that there is a need because as far as right now people are working from home, they are having different kinds of platforms. So there is a threat level increases, and for that we have to have a network security architecture in a proper way. And for that I can suggest that such a VDI kind of infrastructure can be created, where if VMware has also come up with certain VDI infrastructure in which blast stream protocol using TLS 1.3 transmit the data, and it is more and more secure. So we have to adopt that. And the most important is the endpoint security. So endpoint security is a most important aspect, and for that either you have to use VPN or you have to use multi-factor authentication or some endpoint devices, posture check devices such as OpSWAT or there are a lot of security solutions are there. So in this way, we see that we have to cover, we have to secure our endpoint, we have to secure our network, we have to secure our databases, and whatever data also, the data is also important, such as because Digital Personal Data Protection Act has come. So we have to see that if an organization is working as a fiduciary, we have to take care of the entire data. So the privacy is a very, very important concern. So in that, what we have to do, that database where we are storing the data, that is, we should keep it in, whether that data in rest or in motion or even in processing. During processing, we should keep it in encrypted form. So various protocols are there, so we can use that. And present scenario, when we talk of quantum computing, then there are a lot of issues related to cryptography. So we have to come out with certain kinds of algorithm that we can work and we can search and we can index our the encrypted data, and we can work on that. So there are a lot of research going on that. So we have to work in that direction. We should analyze encrypted data. So in this way, I feel that if this kind of security is implemented in the entire scenario, in the entire organization, we can go ahead and as far as networks is also concerned, we can create VRFs, and by implementation of VRFs, we can go for creating a virtual air gap solutions at least. So in this way, we can have certain security implementation. Thank you.
Sir, for giving a very comprehensive view in today's environment, how security can be implemented. You covered across various layers, which are very relevant and very, very pertinent points which you made. Thank you so much. That will really help. I think you left the point around on quantum, and that actually brings the next panel member very naturally in, Shri Manohar Rajaji. Someone who has been I've known Manohar Rajaji for a very long time, very deep technologist on his own, and very keen to explore newer areas. So, Rajaji, if it's okay for you to share thoughts on how quantum is moving at this point of time, and what could be the potential future. We have already heard around some bits on AI in the conversation so far, but on quantum, if you would like to share how that is going to impact cyber going forward.
Thank you. Great question, but the story around quantum and cybersecurity is not really good news, I would like to say. You know, it's more of scaremongering, but it is reality. The fact is, we always thought quantum computing is something of a distant future, and when it comes, you know, then we need to worry about certain things. But just the other day, I think a couple of days back, I read an article in the New Scientist that 1,000-qubit computer is now done. You know, we were thinking that's going to happen in 2025 or something. So we will have quantum computers which will break all the codes which we rely on, encryption codes, in minutes, very soon. So if it's going to affect the foundation of how our whole security system works, and we need to figure out what should be the strategy and how we should do this. Not only, this is one of the threats. If you look at the other threat vector, which is there, that the RSA encryption, which all of us rely on and we now know that there are state actors with skeletal keys. So as a nation which is trying to assert itself, we need to be more independent. How can we become more secure? How can, you know, if other state actors are having access to our sensitive data, what will be our strategy? If RSA encryption is not enough anymore, then what are the alternatives available? And I think the third vector on this for our thought process, which we need to worry about, is the recent thing people are talking about, mem computing, where they're able to generate the kind of brute force required to break these keys. So all these three things, if they're all happening, and even if any one of them happen, I think whatever we are sitting on in comfort, we have a lot of things giving us security, is going to be shaken up a bit. So I know disruption is an overused word in our IT world, but I think truly something remarkable is going to happen in this area, and we should take action. I was very keen and pleasant to hear that Lieutenant General is talking about Tech Saga. I think that is a good initiative. We have to pool our resources. I think the Western world also must be pooling this, because this problem is going to hit all of us at the same time, because it's going to be one paradigm moving on to another. So I think and this is not something which we can overnight switch on. I think we need to figure out what kind of investments we make, how do we build various quantum key generation is, I think, a fair amount of solved problem. How can we distribute quantum keys? What kind of infrastructure we can create in the public world? It's more like, it's a kind of UPI movement for security. From a key distribution perspective, how can we make it commonplace and things like that? If we can think through this, I think we'll be ready for the future when it comes.
Thank you so much. Manohar Rajaji has just given us the future where we are heading upon. It's that crystal ball moment, saying that if we believe that a lot has been done, it clearly tells us there's a lot more to be done. So thank you for sharing those inputs. But let me bring in Vivek at this moment. And Vivek, if you can, because you represent a technology company, obviously, which is committed to build upon cybersecurity across governments, states, and enterprises. There's a lot of buzz around the technology which is now creating a lot of promises, which is around usage of AI. And how is that becoming effective in solving some of the problems? Because on one side, AI is also expected to create much bigger challenges for the CISO's organization. But on the flip side, AI is also providing a whole lot of solutions across for cybersecurity. So can you give us some perspective, sir?
I think AI is something that being discussed almost in every other conversation. And let me answer the other part first, how it's kind of challenges that we are seeing from the AI perspective. if you look at the adversary world, what we are noticing, what we are actually seeing for last few months, is there are three areas where they are able to leverage AI in their work. Primarily, when they do the prospecting of the attacks, scanning their social media accounts, is where they are leveraging AI a lot. We have seen some instances where the CAPTCHA piece of security has also been, targeted leveraging AI. And the third piece that we are seeing where they are leveraging AI a lot, the adverse world, is creating fake profiles. So as of now, this is what we have witnessed. This is what we are witnessing right now from AI perspective. If you look at the adverse use of AI. It may go further. They may use it for some other purposes, creating malwares, creating more malware codes. Probably it may go there. Now let's look at how we are leveraging AI from the defense world, from a world where we want to deliver security for our organization, for our customers. There are three specific areas where we leverage AI from security standpoint. I'll give you one example. About 10 years back, when the volume of the malware samples started increasing, at that point in time, most of the malware samples used to be analyzed by the team of analysts. They'll reverse engineer it, trying to understand what is it. We created the first artificial neural network, ANN, at that point in time, to analyze these samples leveraging AI. And some 6-7 phases of that AI development, today we call it 40 AI. That particular network, that neural network that we have created, analyzes millions of samples in sub-second and to the near perfect disposition of the sample. So that's one piece, is solving the problem of scale, first thing. The second thing that we are seeing is that it's also helping you enhance your observation. Let's say if an analyst is working on analyzing a particular space, the AI can also get you a view around the other vectors. Attack is normally multi-vector. Other vectors can be analyzed by the AI. That's where the enhancement comes in from AI perspective. The third piece where we are leveraging the AI is bringing the predictiveness of your alerts. How do you predict further activities? And that's very simple. Let me give you an example. Let's say I have one specific instance. I know the DNA of that particular attack or that particular malware code. I see another one. AI can simply equate those two, compare those two, and can get back to the source and can also predict what are the next steps if you are in the middle of the attack or the early stage of the attacks. So we are using AI to getting those predictive alerts as well for our technologies. One use case that now we are seeing is becoming very, very useful for most of the organization is leveraging AI for solving your security operations issues. I think most of the organizations will, today see that the kind of alerts that they get on their consoles is humongous. So for those, alerts analysis, normally now you can leverage AI to remove all those mundane alerts that you want to analyze. AI can do that for you, and you can focus back on the critical ones where you want deeper analytics. So these are the pieces that we are seeing where we are leveraging, AI, Atul.
We always get to hear use cases of AIs giving a lot of performance improvement, but you highlighted how that can become very relevant and pertinent in a cyber world. And I really like the scale, enhanceability, and the predictability. Clearly, three elements where AI can play a massive role. Moving to Vishak. Vishak, you talked upon on PPP. And that's going to be a very, very important area. And maybe that goes back to what Lieutenant General also talked upon initially. And I know you talked upon from a cyber awareness, how the organization is driving. But do you have broader views for audience saying how PPP can really make the nation move forward in this direction?
Yeah, I think it's inevitable when we really look at industry. Cybersecurity is a team sport. And it's nobody is going to win it all alone, right? And I think today, the way the economy is getting digitized, public-private partnership is so critical. And the way we see other mature markets are going through is to collect in one area which is very important is global threat intelligence. And the global cooperation which is required, we are the founding members of Cyber Threat Alliance. CTA was actually founded by us. And we actually went to our nearest competitor to bring them on board. While we compete with them so fiercely in the market, we understood very quickly that it's a team sport and we need collective threat intelligence. So we got in our competitors onto it, and we quickly understood. And we are a gateway partner to Interpol. That means Fortinet, with its large infrastructure, what we have built, and what Vivek spoke about, the AI in terms of processing, we process billions of threats in a day. How do we triage that intelligently and help forensic from an investigation point of view? So Interpol has formed a gateway partnership with vendors like us, where we share our intelligence from a actual threat intelligence from a forensic point of view. So I think the second area is forensic and investigation to actually do it. And the third area is skill. And skill is becoming so important today. Product certifications are becoming important. You want to maintain security at peak without compromising. You need to make sure that the configurations are made. You can buy a Ferrari, but if the person is not able to drive it properly, if it is misconfigured. So I think skill level is important, and this is where organizations like us, we are partnering with global education institutions, globally, right? And we've started the partnership with AICTE, whereby we share our NSE certifications, and in next 3 years, we have a goal of creating about 100,000 certified NSE certifications from Fortinet side, and making sure that we partnered with about 30 plus academic institutions in India to offer this free of cost. So there is a social responsibility what we have, apart from being the #1 firewall vendor, making all of those great products, but we have a social responsibility as well. And I think public-private partnership is the way to go on threat intelligence, investigation, skill gap.
Great points. Thank you so much, Vishak, for highlighting threat intelligence, investigations, and eventually the social cause, which is augmenting the skills. Well, that really gets us to a stage where I would request Lieutenant General Nair to give us some closing comments, and maybe one point for larger industry, General Nair, which everyone is looking forward, saying incidents have become way of life. And it's good to see that government has mandated reporting of incidents coming in. But how can that be a process whereby it becomes more streamlined, it becomes more structured, and it gives value back to everyone who's coming back into those authorities? But closing comments from you, that will be very helpful.
Thank you, Atul. I think I benefited a lot from many of the panelists, when they had mentioned about the cybersecurity being a collective sport. I think I can't agree with you more, actually. It's a collective sport. And all of the entire cybersecurity community here, I think you need to assist each one of us here. We need to ensure that your active participation is required for ensuring that our cyberspace is protected. As far as coordination between the various ministries on threat incident reporting, etc., I think there's a lot of measures being adopted at the governmental level. And I'd mentioned, there are a lot of policy tweaks which are taking place so that we ensure that the incident management response system, even the fact that if there is a threat which has been anticipated, we have a lot of mechanisms even at the international level where threats emanating from cyberspace. Today it's a global threat, actually. So we have threat coming from multiple agencies, multiple nations. There are CERT-to-CERT interactions which are taking place. So all this is a coordinated effort, and within the country too, there are quite a few agencies involved, including private sector participation in this particular domain. The CII needs to, it's a crown jewel, as somebody had mentioned. I think we need to ensure that our CII is protected. We need to use the emerging technologies. Already the AI is already here. We can't any longer call it emerging. And skill enhancements, predictive analysis, these are opportunities which are there. Public-private partnership, skill development, awareness programs, citizen-specific programs, even to senior citizens. That's something which we know senior citizens emerge as one of the major, they are most affected by cyber crimes today. So can we look at awareness programs which are there addressing the specific requirements of that particular population? We also have skill development for specialists in cybersecurity. Like we require CISOs to have specific qualifications. So how do we build up these? So these are the challenges which you are facing. As I mentioned, it has to be a coordinated response across all of us, citizen-specific, ministries, government, and public-private partnership. This is the only way we can protect our cyberspace. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for summing it so well. I know we are being pushed out of the room. Maybe we can just go for one, but pick up outside of the room.
Very quick, I think. Okay, I think I'm loud enough. So, I think I take a cue about resilience from your point of view of talking about two things so in the same slide, mesh architecture and platform approach. Platform approach is absolutely fine, but when we talk about mesh architecture, conceptual level theoretically looks very fine. You deploy it, it becomes very inefficient. I'll tell you why. To bring efficiency into that, you need to actually map all those different aspects that you're talking about and define the interplay. You do not need to interact each and every this aspect with each and every aspect to create a efficient, there will be so much overheads, it will never remain efficient. So we need the architectural approach, understanding the interplay between different aspects, defining it, and then, yes, creating that, addressing all those with those limited and well-architected mesh rather than a blatant mesh architecture, which I saw. I think, and talking about resilience, I think what is the breakout time today? I would like to know, because that is something which becomes very important. Ideal is 1:10:60. But today, where we are? On the defense side, not on the offense side, they are improving every day. But on the defense side, that is one of the things that I think maybe CERT or maybe as an ecosystem, we need to monitor and try to strive that, yes, there is no further, you can say that we can make it completely immune, though we would love it.
Yeah, so on this mesh architecture, it's a conceptual one, definitely. Yeah. And Gartner, which thrives on 17 magic quadrants for the first time in 2021, came back and said, like, they need to talk to each other. So that convergence is actually happening. And the consolidation of within security pieces is happening. That's a realization. But in terms of how the mesh needs to be configured, it's very environmental specific. How you need to actually do it. So you need to really look at your security orchestration, your playbooks, and your run books. How you want to, when you see an alert, how do you detect it? How do you mitigate it? How do you bring in the automation? It's very environmental specific. So it's one size does not fit in all. Right? I agree with you on that.
But is there a structured approach defined anywhere?
Yeah. We can explain that to you on a side conversation, how it works, how the cybersecurity mesh architecture needs to be created. The second point about which you spoke about in terms of augmenting the time to detect, time to remediate, I think we've come a long way. The time to detect, which is on average in APAC, which I see in my territories, is anywhere between, it was 150 to 180 days. It's actually come down to 70 to 80 days in the last testing what we've seen. And the tools, when you do it effectively, from hours of investigation time to few minutes is definitely possible. So now I can share with some content of how you achieve that, right? So technology solution is there, but how you configure.
So we need to deploy them.
Yeah, we need to deploy them with your environment is more critical.
Thank you. And maybe some of these can continue outside the room. But I take this opportunity to the entire panel to thank them for being sharing upon their thoughts on a topic which, as was highlighted, is very close to the Prime Minister, and he talked about the same today morning. So thank you everyone for sharing your perspectives. I'm sure the forum who's attending out over here has gained a lot of value from all the inputs which you have provided. So thank you, gentlemen. The only thing we missed out is diversity element on the panel today, and that's why I'm using gentlemen. So thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
we'll make do with it. It's really an important topic, and I think it's close to all our hearts. Every one of us, at least sitting in the panel, wants to see India becoming the next hub for electronics manufacture for the globe, similar to what China has become. And we have a really eminent panel here today, and it's my privilege to actually moderate a panel which is, so eminent. Everybody has, multiple years, multiple decades of experience in electronics manufacturing, and are pioneering each segment in the electronics manufacturing space. So I'll give you a quick introduction of the people sitting here, and we have one more panelist who's still to come, but we'll start off in the interest of time, and I'll just go by one. We have Mr. Sunil Kumar Verma, who's the Joint Secretary in Telecom. He comes with about 25 years of experience in administrative, management, and technical fields. He's worked at both the senior management level and management level in various departments in railways and telecommunications. And he was just giving us a lowdown on how BharatNet is going to change the country and change the face of this country forever. That'll be interesting to hear. And so he actually initiated the Unified Vendor Approval Module for the, it was a vendor development initiative. So thank you for being here, Mr. Verma. We have Mr. Sunil Dutt. Needs no introduction, 30 years of experience across HP, name the brand, name the electronics brand. I mean, this HP, this BlackBerry, Samsung, turned around Samsung to make it one of the largest mobile companies here in India. And now with the president of Reliance Jio. So thank you for being here. We have Mr. Sanjeev Chabra from BTEL. He's the managing director and CEO. And again, I think one fact that changed during our conversation is he said that they're exporting to about 34 countries from India right now across telecom equipment and telecom devices. So great to have you here, Mr. Chabra. Thank you. Mr. Manoj Gurnani is not here. We'll wait for him to come and then give him an introduction. Dr. Ravi Bhatkal, 10 patents, managing multiple EMS companies here in India. Element Solutions, he's the managing director for McDermott Alpha. And one of the most important companies that needs to be here, supplying materials in the semiconductor and electronic space. And I'd love to see your companies be really successful, right? Where semiconductor fabs in India or OSATs or ATMPs and PCB companies, really buy from companies like yours that can make it grow. Right, and so thank you for being here. Mr. Rajiv Gunju from Luminous Power Technologies. Again, like I said, multiple decades of experience. He's had 30 years, both international and India experience. Business strategy, lean manufacturing, quality processes, name it, he's been a part of it. He was with Videocon earlier, and multiple awards to his name, of course, and right now I think manages about 5 or 6 manufacturing plants across the country in Himachal, Uttaranchal, Tamil Nadu, and Telangana and Odisha also. So thank you, Mr. Gunjan, for being here. Srimati Asha Nangia, again from the Ministry of Electronics and IT. They've been at the forefront of changing the electronics manufacturing scenario for India. The multiple policies and reforms that they've brought in have sort of paved the way for electronics to grow here. The PLI schemes, the AMC schemes, and now Specs 2.0, all of them have played a role in growing electronics manufacturing. So we'd love to hear from her too. Thank you, Ms. Nangia, for being here. Mr. Gagan Bansal, the president of TDK India Private Limited. And one of the things that he spoke about before coming here, what Intel is to chips is what TDK is to passive electronics, right? And that's a really interesting thing to hear. And again, I'd love to see TDK actually becoming successful in India and paving the way for in the component manufacturing to grow here, right? Mr. E. Srinivas is the Joint Secretary for Logistics. in the Department of Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade, Ministry of Commerce. Has been part of the whole PM Gati Shakti program, and I have personal experience with that when I was working with the Ministry of Highways under NHAI, and that has really changed how things occur in this country, right? Now how things move and how quickly things move in terms of approvals and sanctions and everything. So thank you so much for being here. Mr. Manoj Gurnani, thank you. Just a minute. Right, Mr. Manoj Gurnani is the head of strategy and CTO for Nokia India. Again, comes with over 28 years of experience. Nokia, Ericsson, Hughes, Siemens, and several others. Has led a lot of big ticket services deals in Airtel, Vodafone, Reliance Jio, and has built Corient India from scratch. So again, a wealth of experience over there. Thank you for being here, sir. So let's begin. Let's begin by talking about why India is going to be the next hub for electronics manufacturing. See, with the rise of digital consumers, the global electronics companies are making it their hub here. Indian companies have started expanding or showing their presence in electronics manufacturing. Sectors are going to rise to about $300 billion, surge in the number of companies that are coming in. But let's hear from them, how do they see India moving in this space? So let's to start off with, I'd like to call on Mr. Verma to give a few points on this.
Yeah, to the companies world over, they are looking at India as the next manufacturing hub for the electronic goods. The government of India has set a target of, say, some $300 billion for the manufacturing of electronic goods by 2025-26. And it is a big opportunity for the companies across the globe to set the manufacturing base here. In fact, India has become a signing spot as far as the manufacturing of telecom equipments, networking equipments are concerned. And the reason is that there is a huge telecom subscriber base available in the country, 1.17 telecom subscribers we have here. And the government aims that the telecom access should reach the entire citizen. I mean, all 1.4 billion population should have the telecom access. If you see the 4G footprint, it is roughly around 99% as on date, and for making it 100%, government is putting in $380 million rupees of money to make it 100%. And further, taking the digitalization of India to a new height and using this 5G, the benefits of 5G. Last year, our Honorable Prime Minister, he inaugurated the launch, he launched the 5G services, and in a very short span of say 11 months, the 5G rollout is fastest in the world, in the India. All 700 plus districts have been covered and 3.6 lakh. In fact, it is 4 lakh 5G sites which have become operational as our Honorable Prime Minister covered today. So for making the country a manufacturing hub, government has taken a lot of initiatives. A lot of reforms have been done to make this telecom sector as a shining sector. I will name few of them. These reforms include the structural reforms, procedural reforms, and the relief measures. So a few of them I would just mention, like the transparent auction of spectrum. Last year, 1.5 lakh crore in record 42 days. and without a single question, without a single hitch, without a single any kind of doubt. In addition, allotment of spectrum allocation letters in 24 hours of the auction. In fact, Mr. Sunil Bharti Mittal mentioned it in one forum that we did not imagine the government functioning in such a way that we pay the money in the morning and we get allotment in the second half. I mean, this was the kind of revolution which has taken place in telecom sector. So, I mean, these things are propelling the environment in the country to make it a kind of ease of doing business. So, if you see that, so some 107 compliance burdens they have been reduced or removed for making ease of doing business actually in the field. Government has freed, they have de-licensed certain frequency bands for the manufacturing to happen, for the innovation to happen, for the R&D to happen. And in addition, for the 5G deployment, the Indian Telegraph Right of Way rules, it was originally in 2016, but it was amended in 2022, and this year also it has been amended for the faster deployment of 5G, because street furnitures, we have all street furnitures available there across the country. So we need that for proliferation of this 5G cells. So that have been amended, they have been permitted, and a lot of relaxation have been given in those rules. So in fact, one PM Gati Shakti Sanchar portal has been launched. It was launched in last year. So the purpose was to simplify, to make the application process easier, to get the approval in a easy and faster manner. And you will be surprised to know that the approval time, it has come down from 230 days before launch of this portal to only 9 days after launch of this portal. So all these things, they are making a kind of a very positive environment for in the country for everything to grow, including the manufacturing. Thank you.
Mr. Rama, thank you so much. I think, people need to hear about this a lot more to really appreciate the kind of thing that the government is doing. But I'd like to move to the industry right now and get their views also. So, Mr. Dutt, if you don't mind talking to us about, you've been a part of multiple brands, right? So you've seen over the last 30 years how things have changed. So why do you think India is an attractive destination right now than it was earlier?
Let me cover that in 3 parts. And one being the infrastructure, and I won't talk the kind of infrastructure that Mr. Verma was just talking about, but from a consumer perspective, and the other being the government, and the third being consumer stroke market. So let's look at it, what happened over the last few years, especially in the last 7 years since we pioneered at Reliance Jio, we pioneered the 4G revolution in the country. So we saw that as the right thing to do for the country, and we saw that there was that huge hunger for connectivity and the huge hunger for internet access. And that's why we decided that we'll move with what was a new technology at that point of time. So what has happened over the last 7 years is that 4G got proliferated, and as he said, 99% already covered, and now moving into 5G and the next phases of technology. So when you look at this, this is clearly creating an infrastructure, and has created an infrastructure where you notice that smartphone penetration has boomed in this country. But not just smartphones, you look at all the other electronics categories, whether it is connected TVs, whether it is laptops, whether it is all other electronic categories which are going to lead to a connected life for a consumer. All of those have grown, and grown significantly. And now we are talking about all the IoT devices as well. So one is, this infrastructure is growing, and growing at a very rapid pace. Given the progress that the country is making in terms of its economy and strength, that is adding, and that is sort of aiding it in a manner which is
unprecedented. People thought that post-COVID there'll be a time to recover, but we've seen hockey stick kind of growths in terms of optics of these product categories. And even in terms of the connected cars and automobiles. So across spectrum, if you notice, this infrastructure is growing. Now this, when supported with all the government policies, starting with the whole China plus one strategy which globally organizations are adopting now, plus government making it so much easier, whether it is through the efforts of the PMS, the PLI and all other benefits which the government is giving, that is again making it attractive for customers, for the companies to try and address this large market which is in this country. And then comes the consumer, the end consumer or the market, which today is not just about consuming these devices, but it's also about what they are doing with these devices and what they are working with. So all, whether you look at the startups, whether you look at the technology startups which have come in, whether you look at the e-commerce as a platform, whether you look at unified payments interface across the country. So everything is going digital. The learning is going digital. The healthcare is going digital. And now with 5G proliferation happening across the country, this is only going to grow. Whether it is in the health sector, whether it is in the finance sector, whether it is in other manufacturing industries, across, this is going to impact. So this, I would say, is just the beginning, which makes it very, very attractive for India to become a manufacturing hub for the world. It, I think, was a matter of time when somebody recognized this opportunity and made sure that it was driven. And it's driven right from the top. So it's I would say, it has definitely become, India has definitely become a manufacturing, destination for the world.
Great, thank you so much. I think we heard the government angle, we heard the consumer angle. Let's go down a little bit to hear about the telecom infrastructure and the materials angle to it. So Mr. Gurnani, if you can take the mic and speak a little bit from your perspective, why do you see India becoming such an attractive destination?
Thank you. I think let me start with the policy making. Sunil already alluded to the PLI schemes. So we actually have a Nokia Chennai factory which has been functioning for the past 15 years. So when we believed in PLI day one. So when PLI 1.0 arrived, we invested, we committed. Soon PLI 2.0 came. We did a business gain and we quickly migrated to PLI 2.0 because it made much more sense. And we did our business case for India and we figured out that we'll make continued investments for the next 5 years. I think it's a great policy. So that's one. The second thing which has really helped is ease of doing business in terms of taking permissions, in terms of seeking appointment with the regulatory. I think it's super easy now. Right? There is absolutely no red tapeism, and I'm saying this with a lot of conviction. The third is, if I look at my Chennai factory, there is huge amount of Gen Z population. India today has more than 400 million young people, brimming with ideas, huge innovation, lot of energy, lot of passion. And so I think that's another factor which is making India as a very, very attractive location. And last but not the least, I think the focus on ESG aspects, environment. And I'm very proud to say that our Chennai facility, almost 88% of the power is green. So we actually have a captive facility of around 2 megawatts plus. So 88% is green. We have a target to make it 100% in the next 18 months. So all this was possible only because of lot of policy push and a lot of favorable environment all across. So,
great. Thank you, Mr. Gurnani. If you could hand the mic to Dr. Ravi Bhatkar, just like to get his perspective from the materials sciences side also.
Okay. Thanks, Avinash, and thanks to the organizers for inviting me to be part of this. So we are a advanced materials and specialty chemicals company. We've been in India as a manufacturing multinational since 1931, so this is our 92nd year of manufacturing in India. So we've seen waves of changes over time, but I can say that a few things are catalyzing what makes this very attractive as a destination for manufacturing. Few things were already mentioned. Infrastructure has improved dramatically over the last 10 years in all aspects. Second is that the financialization of savings is just beginning. So if you look at the savings rate in India, it is now 31% of GDP. And the financialization is just actually beginning. That coupled with a strong banking system, which has strengthened over the last 10 years, is going to bring down the cost of capital in the country, which had been previously an issue. I think that is going to help a lot. Government policy has really catalyzed a lot of investment, both domestically and coming in from the outside. And I would say that these are some of the factors that are really dramatically accelerating what's happening here. We are a multinational. We operate in about 50 countries globally, and we view India as obviously a very strategic market. We have for a long time, and that notion has only accelerated recently. So, we have continued to invest, and that investment will only accelerate over time. I would say that from one of the big imperatives is ecosystem building in India. We've got device and end product manufacturing. We're working our way back into board assembly, and then now more into just beginning to go into packaging, and then there's our ambitions to put a fab, etc. here. One of the things that does need to happen around this is that the ecosystem needs to be built, to support each of these nodes coming in, and so the opportunity is tremendous because the growth is very clearly going to is already justifying that investment. There's no doubt about it. So I expect a lot of companies to already come in, those who are here to invest a lot more, and so on. So I hope that helps.
Thanks, Gagan. But I just want to go to Gagan Bansal, because he mentioned component ecosystem, and you form a big part of that, right? Just to get your, and I was very excited after listening to you in the lounge, just a few sentences of why you find India attractive right now.
So, Avinash, as all the panelists have said, I'll put it in 4 or 5 basic points. One, because of the strength of 1,400 million people that we have in our country, that is the largest consumer base. Of course, there could be one more country which would be comparable, but then we are a large force to reckon with. So we have the largest market. If you look at any company, they talk of business. So whenever you talk of business, you need a market. So India is one of the largest markets, point number 1. Point number 2, if you have to set up a manufacturing, you need scale. Okay? You need scale of production. You need land, building, machinery, people, everything, logistics. Even if people talk about other countries like Indonesia, Thailand, Vietnam, there could be alternatives. No other country except India, apart from China, can offer the scale that we offer. So for example, when we do components, we export 80% of our produce. So that is the scale. And any components manufacturing facility would not come for less than $100 or $200 million. So the amount of investment which goes in with a capex to output ratio of 1:1.5 or something, scale is very important, and India offers that scale. Now the question is that India always had the population, India always had the scale, so what has changed now? Why is it only now? So then the answer lies in the vision of the government, which is there, which has come in now, which is very heartening and very impressive, and we saw this in full mood even in the morning inaugural session. Now, even if the vision is there, it has to be implemented. So the next phase is even implementation from the government by way of various PLI schemes, PEC schemes, ease of doing business, dispersing the money. Everything and the intent, we have 3 government officials on the panel. They're very forthcoming on each and every momentum. So that is helping us. Now, there is another underlying factor, which makes it happen. This is a very fast change in technology. The amount and the pace at which technology is changing today was never there in the past. Maybe in future it is even faster. I cannot predict. But yes, technology is changing every 6 months, every 1 year. We never heard about AI. We never heard about machine learning, IoT devices, robotics, or in medical or robotics in other areas 5 years ago. So technology. I think all these things put together form a great mix why India is the most sought after destination for electronics manufacturing.
Great, thank you so much. Just going to change tracks a bit here. What we want to do is we want to talk about the government policy initiatives and the reforms that the government has made a little more in detail than what we heard earlier. So at first, then we'll get the industry perspective of how they've seen those reforms, and also to add more to it. There's always more to add to it, right? We're still just scratching the surface right now. So let's look at what the government has done first, then look at what the industry wants. I mean, it's like the Pepsi ad, right? Yedil mange more all the time. So we want more and more from the government. But let's hear what they've done first. So Ms. Asha Nangi, if you could take the mic, please.
Thank you, Avinash. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Avinash. So, adding to Mr. Bansal, adding to what Mr. Bansal has said, that definitely India is a big market, and that is a lucrative for the manufacturers to set up their businesses in India. So that is the first thing. And today in the geopolitical situation, all the manufacturers, big manufacturers or the MNCs, they are looking for China plus one location. That is another point which makes India a preferred location for setting up their manufacturing locations. Keeping these two aside, now I would like to tell you something about why India. So now India, if you see to it, that India has seen an unprecedented growth in the electronics manufacturing during the last 8 years. So as of now, we see that our production has gone up to 101 billion. That is our industry estimates. And if we compare it with the last 8 years, our CAGR is around 17%. So our production is going at a rate of 17%, and industry and if we go by the industry norms, they say that the initiatives that the ministry is taking, the government is taking, the conducive policies that they have, the ease of business policies, the incentive schemes they are launching, we can grow at a rate of CAGR of 25%. So that is what the industry feels. Coming back, the Honorable PM has a vision of 1 trillion economy for India, and Ministry of Electronics and IT has set up a ambitious target of 300 billion by 25-26. So when you say 300 billion by 25-26, we are already in the end of 23. So that gives manufacturers a very comfortable position that yes, they can invest in India, they can do business in India, they can expand their businesses. Now, we have a national policy on electronics. We had formulated this earlier in 2009 and then in 2012. That is to promote the electronics manufacturing in the country. So when we say that this national policy on electronics, this envisions India positioning as a global hub for manufacturing of electronic goods, and also by encouraging and driving the capabilities for the ecosystem also, design and the components also, including the chipsets. So that is a broad vision. We are not saying that we would be producing for India only, for the captive market. We are saying that we should produce for the world, for India and also for the world. And we should produce the finished goods as well as the components, including the chipsets. Now, when we say that we have policies, and the industry is the one who has to manufacture the products. So we, resonating with the industry demands, we have formulated very conducive policies, incentive schemes, like we say modified special incentive package scheme, way back in 2012, to promote the manufacturing of finished goods. So at that time, if you see to it that India, there was very little manufacturing of finished goods. So we thought, okay, even if industry starts assembling in the country, that would be good enough. Then we launched another scheme called special promotion of scheme for components and semiconductors. That is, we want to build the components also in the country. Otherwise, what will happen is we will continue to import the components from the border sharing countries or from the world, and our value addition would be limited to assembling only. Similarly, when we say that, okay, we have components manufacturing, we have finished goods manufacturing, but maybe some companies would like to have ready-built sheds or the clusters where the infrastructure is already there, or all the approvals sought by the government are already there. So we have launched electronic manufacturing cluster schemes 1.0 and 2.0 also, that to set up the infrastructure required for this. Now, these were some kind of schemes that we have notified, and including some non-tariff measures also. When we say that we want to curb the import of substandard goods from other countries, we want that our consumers should have the access to quality goods, and we should be able to stop the substandard goods which are unsafe. Now, coming back is how we are, how the manufacturing in India is growing. When we say that our production is now 101 billion, if we see to in 2017-18, it was 60 billion only. So we are growing at a rate of 17%. It's not that our import is not growing. Our import at that time was around 56 billion, which is nowadays around 76 billion. So import is also growing, but it is growing at a CAGR of 12.7%. And our exports, with whatever the interventions that government has taken, our export has grown from 6 billion to 24 billion. And now coming back to the success stories of our manufacturing. So as you know that Ministry of Electronics has notified the production link incentive scheme for large scale electronics. We commonly call as a PLI for mobile phones. So we had launched it in 2016, and it has become a torch bearer for the country. Today, if we see to it, that India has become the second largest manufacturer for the mobile phones, and we are producing around 45 billion worth of mobile phones in the country. We were only producing 6 crore in earlier, and now we are producing 45 crores mobile phones. And if we see to the imports targets, mobile phones, we say that only 5% of the mobile phones are now imported. The rest of the domestic demand is already being met by the domestic manufacturing. Since we cannot manufacture everything, that 5% will always be there. Earlier, when we say that in 2014, we had 6 companies for manufacturing of mobile phones only. Now, we have more than 200 companies which are manufacturing the mobile phones or their chargers and different things. And we are the biggest manufacturers of now, exporters of chargers and the PCBA for mobile phones also. And we are also exporting the mobile phones in the country. So this is one of the torchbearer, and this was the first PLI that Ministry of Electronics and IT has notified. Subsequently, we have also notified the PLI scheme for the IT hardware. And we had notified it recently, and earlier the scheme, there were some lacunas in that, so we have revamped the scheme, and now we have received a very good response for that, and we hope that that will be able to promote the manufacturing of laptops and servers and those goods in the country. Similarly, if we see to it, Semicon India, that is for the manufacturing of chips. So government has announced a scheme for 10 billion for semicon manufacturing across all the nodes, and we are giving incentives of 50% on pari passu basis for setting up those manufacturing. So at this junction, if you see that yes, India is evolving as a great hub for manufacturing of electronic goods and the components and the whole ecosystem, it gives an opportunity to all the manufacturers across the world to expand, to diversify, and they upgrade their manufacturing and come and invest in India to join hands with the government. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. That is, Mr. Srinivas, just get your perspective from the DPIIT on how you see policy being the catalyst for this particular sector.
Thank you, Avinash, and hello to all my fellow panelists. First of all, I'll talk from DPIIT point of view, how we are taking basically now the ease of doing business has been changed to the business enabling environment. The new terminology has come into being nowadays. So first of all, I'd like to say that our department deals in two things. There is a logistic policy and the PM Gati Shakti. Now I'd like to just make you understand a little bit about the PM Gati Shakti. So as a part of the PM Gati Shakti National Master Plan, basically the plan is to interconnect, provide a integrated multimodal transport for connecting all the economic zones. So the principle is, earlier also you may tell that infrastructure works were progressing earlier also, so what is the big difference? The big difference is earlier all the departments infrastructure major, that means the railways, roadways, power, telecom, shipping, MOPNG, Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, all the departments were working in isolation. So what this PM Gati Shakti National Master Plan, which was launched in October 2021, now we are celebrating 2 years of that National Master Plan. So what we did was, the whole of the infrastructure in the nation has been mapped on a GIS platform. You will be it's very satisfying for all of us to note that all the infrastructure, whether it is roads, highways, shipping infrastructure, tourist infrastructure, railways, stations, whatever you name, the power, the transmission lines, all have been mapped on a single PM Gati Shakti National Master Plan with the geolocation. And it has been done on the indigenous platform which is developed by BISAC and in Gandhinagar. So the advantage of this is, after that we have set up a network planning group which consists of members from all the ministries, and whenever any new project comes for more than 500 crores, all the members sit together and evaluate the plan, seeing whether the plan takes care of, suppose there is a requirement of the Ministry of Oil and Natural Gas to lay a pipeline, then they will say that you leave 2 meters for us beyond the road. Then if the land is passing through a forest, then they will tell that the Ministry of Forest will tell, can you little bit tweak that so that the wildlife is not affected. And the whole purpose of whatever we spend the money, each taxpayer's money that goes into the infrastructure, we see that the maximum benefit is according to all the people. Now what I'm telling, why I'm driving this point is, ultimately the supply chain of the logistics, that means transportation of goods and all, whatever you manufacture, that supply chain has to be, supply chain should be considered, and there should be resilience in the supply chain. And all these things will lead into the de-risking of our investment. So basically we look after this, and we are already a national logistics policy was also launched subsequently in 2022. So in that there were 6 principles which we deal with it. One is we see that all the processes of the businesses, they are digitized. Like we introduced a logistic data bank in which we are tracking all the containers in the million of containers throughout the country. And then we have got skill and capacity building for all the, if you don't have the skill and capacity building and you're creating a logistics sector, then that won't be of much use. So we are also developing a skill. We have introduced a logistic course in all the IITs and a new Gati Shakti Vishwavidyalaya has been created where the logistic course has been created. We are doing engagement with the state also, so that the states are also in board. Ultimately, in a federal form of government, ultimately without the support of state, will not be able to do anything. So that's the thing we are doing it. I'll further deal with it when we come next time.
Thank you, Mr. Srinivas. I just want to get the industry to chip in right now. So I'm going to pass the mic to Mr. Rajiv. Can you give me your perspective on where do you see these policy initiatives and the reforms stand today? And what more should we be doing to grow this particular sector?
Good afternoon, and thank you for this question. And I think a lot of it has been deliberated already. So first, like little bit, I'll give the background is that need. So I've seen our Honorable Prime Minister always say, "Yahi waqt hai, sahi waqt hai." So after COVID, we have seen resilience. We just heard about resilience. So if we talked about the global supply chain hub, that people always used to look at one country as the global supply chain hub. But COVID also taught, the geopolitical situation also taught that another hub is very important. That need is not only coming from inside, but outside also. Wherever we go today, everybody is excited that we want to open manufacturing setup in India. And today I'll tell you, even in our organization, that there's a bid that where we have to open a manufacturing setup. Many countries do that bid. And we have seen that we are winning that bid today. We also talked about infrastructure. We are doing good. Processes, we are simplifying them. Relief is being provided. Then I'll come to Avinash's question, ye dil mange more. So always we would like that something better should come. So he has given this question to me, so I have to speak on it. So excuse me if I say too much. So first thing is like when we say that excellent, like we had to start somewhere, we have done that. We have seen, we always wanted PLI. Industry always wanted that we should have production-linked incentives. It has come. So while we talk about production-linked incentives, we are focusing so much on renewables. And renewable, we have covered on storage when we talk about lithium-ion batteries or alternate chemistry batteries. We have already talked about solar panels. We have given there. But there is a in-between what converts that power from the DC panel to the AC what we use. Those are the on-grid systems and off-grid systems. These on-grid, off-grid and hybrid systems, not only is the need here, but we can become big exporters for that. I have seen everywhere there is need for these hybrid systems now, because tariff for the time of the day is prevalent everywhere. So they want to store this power from the renewable energy during the low power tariff times and then use it when the power tariff is high. So we have a big scope there. Why can't we cover those kind, extend this scheme to those kind of things? That is the first request, if I can put on the table. Then when we talk about, we have to become major players in electronics. So we cannot ignore components. I think 2020 we have given the PLI 1.0, what we talk about on components as well. But when we see that investment to turnover ratio, so almost it is like a FG. So FG and component cannot attract similar investment to turnover ratio. Because component, when it is to be qualified, it has a gestation, long gestation period. Even anybody has to take that components, it will take him close to a year, 8 months to qualify a component. So one is that its turnover ratio will start from the second or third year onwards, and ratio has to be different. So I think we have scope there to look into that PLI so that we support that component and the ecosystem around it. So it's not only the component. For example, if we talk about boards, we can, one is that we have to stop somewhere if cheap boards are coming from somewhere. Second thing is that board also has various raw materials. So I think something was talked about it. How do we benefit our internal manufacturers on their raw material, because still they are dependent, because they will not make it economical if that raw material, for example board, if they have to get 18 micron film of copper, so they will still have to import it. If they have to focus on epoxy or glass, they still have to import it. Then again it will be a kind of assembly rather than a pure manufacturing. So our PLIs, if we can expand them to the ecosystem, I think we really can be much more beneficial. So third part, if I say, is that we are talking about sustainability. So we heard talking about sustainability. So something like to promote that, we have seen across the globe, there are green incentives for making green. There is something to promote green, because we know that when you invest on renewable, you invest on solar, payback period still has some time. It takes time to get those paybacks. If we can have those green incentives, so which can promote companies to become green, use green power. We already are 90%. We can go to 100%. We can get LEED certified. We can get IGBC certified. We can make green factories. So if we can have a level playing field in that, so if we can have those kind of improvements in those policies. So Dil mange more. So lot has been done. Lot of allocation is there. Little bit more. And I think it is the need. Today we have, look at our technical manpower. We are the highest producers of technical manpower. We have more than 3,000 engineering colleges giving these young graduates. And we have so much of technical strength. We have young manpower. We cannot ignore that manpower. That's our real strength, which is already existing in our country. Infrastructure process, little bit of relief, and time has come that we will beat the entire world. Thank you.
Thank you, Raju. Thank you so much. I just want to go to Mr. Chabra and ask him. Sorry, we'll come to you after that, Mr. Chabra.
Thank you so much for your suggestions. The first question, the request that you had was inclusion of storage systems under the PLI schemes. So presently, if you see to it that we have two PLI schemes. One PLI scheme is for PLI for the mobile phones, which includes the mobile phones and some of the components for the mobile phones. That the date for applications under the both the scheme part 1 and part 2 is already over. So that part is already over. Coming back to the PLI for mobile IT hardware, wherein we have notified tablets, servers, laptops, thin clients, etc. So in that scheme, we are covering, that is limited to that only. So we cannot have any kind of window for storage systems under that. But definitely it's a, we'll look into your suggestions. You send a request to us. We'll have a look at that, whether it is really feasible to have a PLI for that. Because as you have said that industry always wants more. So we have been receiving requests. Everyone says my product is very important, so you give me the PLI, maybe for CCTV, maybe for X product, and maybe for automotive batteries, for other batteries and something. But definitely we'll consider a request. Second thing about the green technologies, definitely it's a welcome situation, but we have to see how it has can be implemented. Third part is about the components and their raw materials. So the ministry is already considering the specs 2.0, wherein we have still the scheme is open and for suggestions from the industry, what all kinds of components or their raw materials are to be included in the scheme, wherein we can provide the incentives. Under the specs 1.0, what we have, the incentives is of the 25% of the capex that is there. So, but you are talking about the gestation period when you say that you start manufacturing. So, as of now, we haven't received any such request from the industry. But yes, we are open for suggestions. You can always say that, okay, the scheme should be open for X years and it should be, the implementation period should be Y years. So we will be more than happy to do that. Presently, we are really considering specs 2.0. So we request you to provide your inputs on that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Mr. Chabra, just coming to you.
Yeah.
You're one of a big EMS players in India. You have multiple joint ventures with a few EMS players, right? So I'm sure you have your own experiences in it, and what the government has done and what they should be doing. So we'd like to hear from you also.
Yeah, thanks Avinash. I think I'm the last one to speak on this topic. Yeah, so first of all, thanks all my colleagues, industry colleagues and the government department colleagues. I fully agree with you, what you mentioned. I see why India is an attractive place to be a manufacturing hub. We are just not doing manufacturing. We are actually, if you see, working on the full value chain which starts from the making the raw material, the component in India. The government of India has started PLI on that, and manufacturing, and then creating a full ecosystem. In my lifetime, I'm seeing first time the government is becoming a partner to the industry, be it ease of working, ease of approval, fast approvals, and they are throwing money back to get the PLI in place. Not only PLI, there are other schemes which are there. I heard my colleague, he's talking about, reaching out to with the GPS or to the national road connectivity across. So these initiatives were not there few decades back. You look at the UPI scheme Sunil mentioned, you look at the startup ecosystem. No, today the college pass out is not afraid of starting a business because he knows that there will be enough and more support from the financial institution or the government to run that. So if you look at the whole ecosystem which is provided to our next generation by this government, this transparency which has come is actually playing a big role in that. And now India is not only producing just one more product. The global organizations are not afraid of coming to India. They are seeing that India is a quality product. Our quality processes, certifications, our trainings, our standards have actually gone up. And not only the multinationals are coming up in India setting their Indian organization are actually coming up and putting their big investments. In past few years, there is 30,000 crore investment which has come after PLI. And there is a lot of more money which is coming as an investment because there is enough of ROIC. And these products are actually, tomorrow is going to the globe. First, there is huge demand in India. 1.4 billion people, these are our strength actually. The consumption is going to be more than enough. Currently, the per capita income is around 2,250. Whereas if you see the western side is $50,000 plus. This is going to increase. So the middle society people, they are going to consume more than what they have been consuming. And one of the reasons is the penetration in the bandwidth internet. So looking at the complete ecosystem, be it the cost effectiveness, support from the government, creating an ecosystem, focusing on R&D, and creating a future with a green thing for our next generation. Is actually, I'm very much convinced that it's the right time, and believe me, we all are lucky enough that next 10 years going to be the best of Indian history's time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chhabra. I'm just going to quickly touch upon a few topics. We've got quite a few there, but I don't know if you can cover everything, but nevertheless, each of you to speak to one of them. I think let's start with, while we've spoken about the potential for electronics manufacturing, the policies and everything else, I think some of these situations like what happened during the pandemic are real world situations. It has happened, it could happen in the future. So just want to touch, Mr. Dutt, if you could take the mic, and how can we sort of be more resilient when supply chain disruptions like that happen, right? You have a big business to handle. There are a lot more devices and distribution that needs to happen. You're procuring from pretty much every part of the globe. It's a huge population that you're supplying to over here. So how do you think you should make it resilient? So let's hear from you.
So I think, in terms of the supply chain systems, we can always keep looking towards the government to provide infrastructure, etc., all of that. But at the same time, I think it's also upon us as an industry to ensure that we make use of the best technology systems to be able to attain those efficiencies. When you're talking about electronics, it's about just-in-time inventories. It's about getting the right products out to the consumers in the right point of time. Especially when you're talking about mobile phones, the fact that we are the second largest manufacturing country in the world, it also means that the consumption has been in line with that. Because it's not just about exports from this country, but also the domestic consumption, which is. So this consumption has not happened, without the efficiency being built in the supply chain systems. I mean, I recall the time when, we were holding inventories of, maybe a few weeks or maybe a couple of months at one point of time, but now you operate on just-in-time inventories, whether it is your components, whether it is your finished goods, or whether it is, the material at the shop floor. So it has to come with improved supply chain systems. A lot has gone into it in terms of planning, in terms of how we use technology for the planning, in terms of how we use the better supply chain systems and how we sort of optimize them. So I think we need to, as an industry, we need to take our own initiatives in this and not just depend upon, what, and I'm not saying the government has not been providing the support. In fact, even to the previous point where, when you said they'll mange more, of course they'll mange more, but at the same time I would say we've not reached where we have reached without the support of the government. I think it has been forthcoming. It's only about the industry and government always working together to ensure that wherever it is required to bring in those efficiencies, we keep bringing in those efficiencies. I think that is something that is incumbent on both industry as well as the government in terms of their support.
Great, thank you. Mr. Chabra, I heard you saying earlier of how you were taking designs from a particular location, right? And that was stuck in between some geopolitical issues.
Chipset, yeah.
That's right. And then you reverse engineered the whole thing over here. So just talk to us about that, please.
Okay. I was just trying to recall that name of the country. I still forget. So just an example.
I think it was Belarus, right?
Belarus. Oh, that's right. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. So to my surprise, in 2021, I came to know that one of the chipset was coming from Belarus and last year, and the Russia-Ukraine war just stopped it. And there was a huge production plan, and one fine day the factory manager said that chipsets are not coming. We were paying advance to that country, and in spite of that getting the advance, those were not allowed to ship. We were not allowed to buy. And end of the day, they returned our money. So this led to a big question, Avinash, that are we going to really depend on the geopolitical thing as Indian manufacturer? How much should we be depending on, one side the China issue, another side the Ukraine and Russia issue? We can't live our life on the mercy of other people fighting to each other. So what we did, we went back to our R&D team and Ludhiana factory, and we did the reverse engineering, absolutely. We knew what is the final product we were wanted to give to the market, right? So getting back, and we found out that what are the different options available in the chipset. Basis on the chipset availability and the basic on the design application what we wanted, our team did the full reverse engineering. Not only BTEL, but most of the industries, I've seen that they did the reverse engineering. So reverse engineering is one of the feature now with the R&D folks now, that you have to see what is the best economical and suitable component available, and then you do the product reverse engineering. That's what I was talking about. That has taken away our full dependence on that Belarus.
Thank you, Mr. Chabra. It's fascinating to hear about these stories. Thank you. I just want to shift the tracks a little bit here to talk about FDI. Extremely important for a country like us, especially in electronics manufacturing, but we still haven't reached that level that maybe some of the other sectors have reached in FDI, right? So what more can we do or should be done to bring more FDI into the country in the electronics manufacturing? So can we start from you, Dr. Ravi Bhatkal, and why do you think, what should we be doing to get more FDI into the country? We've got everything. We've got the market, we've got the infrastructure, we've got the policies, but there's something seems to be missing here.
So I think in my mind, FDI should be smart money. And by smart money, I mean it should not just come as money. It should come with technology, it should come with knowledge, it should come with contribution from the investor. And typically that would be a multinational, for example, that would put in infrastructure, that would put in research into this country, that would collaborate with the universities in this country, and so on and so forth. So that's, if I were to pick $1 to come in here, that's the dollar I would pick. I would not only take a financial investor, I would actually look for people who bring technology, because I can tell you this, that today I mentioned financialization of savings. Do the math, 31% of 1.2, of $3.7 trillion is 1.2 trillion. Financialization of even a piece of that gives you a significant amount of availability of capital. But what we really need beyond that is the technological base to accelerate what we're doing here. And so I think attracting that is perhaps the imperative at the moment, and looking across the ecosystem to bring in a lot has been talked about components, but really looking at the wide range of that, materials, people, and the skill sets required, equipment, which is today, very, very small here, and then the activities, which are design, modeling and simulation, advanced manufacturing capability, and then testing and reliability. That, structure it in such a way that those elements are attracted here and bring the smart money here. I think that's my suggestion.
Yeah.
So I think very well said, and I also wanted to chip in this. Like when we talk about this, we want to grow electronics. So we also see that when we go to advanced power electronics, we see that we have a competence gap or we have a knowledge gap existing here. When we have to talk about advanced power electronics, we look to West, we look to China, even we look to Australia for research thing there. So we as industry, I think I was heartened to see 5G labs in engineering colleges. Similarly, I think we should have advanced power electronic labs in our engineering colleges. Industry, government, academia together has to work. So I was visiting some engineering colleges. I saw even when the course is being altered and to add certain topics, I have seen more in software. But I think we have to do similar as industry. It should be our responsibility also to align with them so that advanced power electronics also forms the subject material there. We collaborate with this academia to open those advanced power electronics lab, because today you see any high frequency system, you are either looking to Australia, you are looking to West, or you are looking to China, because internal competence and R&D technology doesn't exist. And second, if government can also support in that, we create together R&D fund or we create some system wherein we enhance this. I think it will give big boost to our electronics manufacturing dream. Thank you. Sorry to budge in.
No, that's okay. Thank you. I think I'm really conscious of time. We are want to leave a few minutes for audience to ask questions also. So actually, just switch gears and talk about all your vision for the industry's future. Right? How do you think this sector is going to grow? What's going to happen to the sector in the next 5 to 10 years? And how do you see things panning out? In about 2 minutes each, if you can sum up, and also if you have anything specific to speak about, please do so. So I'll just go around and come back to you last, Rajiv, because you just spoke. So Mr. Verma, let me start with
you. See, the difference which is going to happen, which will impact our life is, I will just mention a few projects which Government of India is working on. I mean, they have approved it. There are two very important projects. One is the saturate the villages through mobile phones, mobile network connectivity. So you will see very soon that all the villages in the country, they will be covered with 4G mobile signal. So in a sense, they will be provided a broadband connectivity. And this project is costing roughly around 26,000 crore. The government has approved last year. And the second big project which the government has approved this year in August, costing 1.39 lakh crore, is to saturate the villages with fiber connectivity. I mean, all villages in the country, all gram panchayats and all villages on demand, they will be provided fiber connectivity, that is the real broadband connectivity. In addition, government has sanctioned incentive for providing 1.5 crore broadband connection to the rural households, to the rural institutions in the entire country, where the cost of the provisioning, which includes the fiber up to the user end, the modem which is to be installed at the user end, they all will be incentivized. User need not pay anything for that. They have to only pay the monthly rental. So these two things will make all villages really coming on the digital map of the country. Actual digitalization will happen in the country and it will make a big change. So that's one important, I wanted to share. Thank you.
What I can speak from my ministry point of view, basically we just interact with all the other infrastructure departments and see that the best infrastructure as far as the telecom, roadways and railways and the last mile connectivity extra is provided as far as the logistic point of view. And also as Sir has told about supply chain disruptions, I think we are a part of IPEF also, Indo-Pacific Economic Framework countries of 14 countries, so that in case of any supply chain disruptions, the Korea and all the part of members of that, so they can also chip in during that time of crisis. So that as we have seen during COVID crisis, when we had a semiconductor chip crisis, it resulted into a automobile manufacture delays and all. It has a very chain effect. So only thing is the logistic we can help in the logistic supply chain resilience. That's the thing.
Okay, no, I just wanted to summarize it properly, so that I don't goof around. So as I mentioned, in the past also, what is the future for India and why India will be doing good? Definitely we are one of the largest consumers. So no doubt that we will have to do good. And if you look at amongst all the other commodities and all the other, areas, whether it is infrastructure, oil, industry, steel, electronics will outpace everything. You look around yourself, how much of electronics is there in your daily life, starting from the time when you get up and when you go to bed, it's filled with electronics. So electronics has to take a center stage. And this is also embodied in the government's dream of being a digital India. So I was talking to Asha Madam just a short while ago, and she said that, the government is also thinking how much more should we allocate to MIT. But because electronics will adopt a center stage as already adopted, we need more as electronics. There is a dream of 300 billion, target for electronics, which is a very impressive dream, and I'm sure that with all the efforts we will reach. But what I'm trying to say is that the market is even bigger, right? Let's aim to reach that dream, but the market is even bigger, and India should not miss that bus. And we have done fantastic job as far as mobile phones, IT hardware is concerned, and many other things in PLI schemes, spec schemes, PMPs, fantastic job done. Now we have to look at new things. So India Mobile Congress, which is aimed towards connectivity, is definitely the next step. And let's look at new applications in electronics. Let's look at education sector, which is a need for the country. Let's look at agriculture sector. Agriculture is a big market for electronics. How to measure soil temperature, soil texture, the precipitation level, how to help the farmer to grow more on the same piece of land. Agri-tech is the next for, electronics. And just to let you know, we are investing as part of our venture capital in agri-tech in India in some startup companies. And then, apart from this, manufacturing technology. You have to make your manufacturing pretty robust, pretty resilient. So you can go in electronics even for predictive maintenance, so that your manufacturing is running uninterrupted 24/7 into 365. So manufacturing technology. Sensors is another where, whether it is automotive or any other area where sensors will play a huge role. We saw some sensor things on the exhibition today about the red jacket, and drones could be helping us for many different applications, medical sector and other things, and medical technology. So please look at all the technologies, and I'm sure electronics will set a corner stage, and we are set to grow. That's my take.
Anyway, Yes, we have an ambitious target of 300 billion by 25-26, and we have identified 11 verticals wherein we want to manufacture those particular products for achieving that target of 300 billion by 25-26, which includes IT hardware, consumer electronics, automotive electronics, medical electronics, industrial electronics, strategic electronics, and components in factories. So, and through this semicon mission, we would like to set up the display fabs, the compound semiconductor fabs, the ATMPs, and through the realized schemes, we also would like to promote the design for the semiconductors. That is what we aim at. We also would like to promote the components. We are considering specs 2.0, I just mentioned. So this specs 2.0 or the specs that we have and the various schemes wherein we have notified the components also, that will aim at increasing the value addition of the products that are manufactured in India. We talked about the resilient supply chains in the country. In fact, I would mention that COVID has been a very bad period for everyone. India has suffered a lot also, but that has taught us a lesson, right? So we were dependent upon other countries for all the components. So after that only we decided that yes, we should go for Atmanirbhar Bharat. So we should think about that we are able to produce for at least for ourselves and if possible for also for the exports. And definitely the other thing is that we should have alternate countries for import also. And like DPIT, Mr. Srinivas also mentioned that we have an agreement called IPEF. So wherein we are saying that there are 14 countries that are partner to it. So we are it's almost on the final stages wherein we are looking at that the supply chain should be resilient. Coming back to that, what should be done next is that we would be promoting more or less all the schemes that we have notified. To maintain the transparency, all the schemes are through a portal and all the data is available on the portal. No personal intervention is required. So that nobody is, if one person goes, the other person can always look at it. And it is freely accessible to the actual manufacturer and the ministry. Ease of doing business is one important aspect that the government is considering as of now. We would like to march ahead along with the industry in promoting manufacturing. Wherever there's government support is required, we are there to support them to the extent possible. Definitely a proposal was there for skilling in the area of power electronics. So these are some of the niche areas which are upcoming areas. So like semiconductor is, we are promoting semiconductor mission and semiconductor manufacturing in the country, but we don't have those manpowers in the country. So we have come out with that report for that how to promote that talent pool. We have launched some courses in the universities also, undergraduate courses and diploma courses also, wherein those talents would be required. We have also done an MOU with Taiwan for training in the electronics manufacturing. So, of course, that is coming to an end next year. But yes, we are working towards skilling the manpower and training the manpower for all the areas that we are manufacturing. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. I'll actually add one more assignment for ma'am. And it's actually, I'll take this opportunity to make a recommendation. So I'd like to talk about this policy which is known as PMA, Preferential Market Access, which is mostly to do with government procurement. I think my recommendation, I think it's a great, first of all, policy to encourage the domestic vendors. But today we feel that it's very lopsided. Almost 80 to 100% of the business is purely reserved for domestic manufacturers, and it's connected to the value addition they create, which is good. But my plea is that, you know, when I go to my management and invite investments to India, the first thing they ask is, you know, why should we invest in India when you cannot even address the local market? So my recommendation is to have a linkage between PMA and PLI. If I achieve PLI incentives, give me an opportunity to participate in X% of the tender. So PMA to PLI linkage is what my recommendation would be.
So he took the opportunity to give his recommendation. Okay, So to sum up, Avinash, to make, India the most attracted manufacturing hub for the globe in coming years, I think I want to divide into three parts. First is innovation, second is collaboration, and third is sustainability. So innovation, we all speak about the technology actually sitting outside. So we have to focus more on having the big focus on the R&D, having the IPR sitting in India. That is one of the initiative which government is also putting through DLI scheme, which is far more welcomed. We also started putting more of R&D folks within our company. So we have to focus on how we can innovate, how we can resonate with the top universities, or like Asha ma'am, she explained that they are going to launch some courses in India. That should be the objective, that our next generation, they should be professionally ready. And those IPRs, those things should sit in India. That should be innovation we must be looking. Second part is the collaboration as industry. We have to collaborate with academia, we have to collaborate more with government now, and we have to collaborate more with the technology partner outside world. We should not ignore them, right? At some of the technologies, they are far ahead than us, so we have to learn those technologies also. This collaboration is going to play a big role as if you want to become a manufacturing hub for the future. And the third part is the sustainability. We all talk about green, we talk about low carbon. We have to see that our next generations, next future people, they don't have to suffer all these issues which we have been facing time to time. So all the manufacturing facility we set up, all the processes we set up should be in such a way that they should see the full sustainability for many decades. That's our responsibility as Indian. And I'm sure with all these ecosystem, with cost effectiveness, with good quality, and all these things will lead to a great future for all of us.
Thank you so much. You passed to Mr. Dutt. During your HP days, there will always be quarterly pressure of selling laptops and desktops, and everybody's running around to do that, right? Do you think that will become easier in the future in the next 5-10 years when you don't have to worry about it? People will just buy it off the shelves?
I think that's a topic we can discuss some other time. But I tend to agree with what Sanjeev said in terms of the collaboration, and whether it is on the technology partners or academia or industry and the government all coming together. I think that, I wouldn't want to repeat that, but I think that's one critical part that Sanjeev mentioned, and that is which is going to propel us, moving forward. And I think it is also happening. It is happening. I mean, I can speak for ourselves that we collaborate very closely in our Reliance Life Sciences with IIT Kanpur. Geo Institute collaborates very closely with AICTE, and so that's happening. It's happening at an individual level, but I think if it can be institutionalized, I think it would make more sense for the entire industry. To what Mr. Verma mentioned, that's kind of music in terms of connecting all villages of this country and connecting all people of this country. And I think as an industry, we are also working towards ensuring that every Indian, all 140 crore Indians are connected, and not just connected to a legacy technology, but to 4G technology. And that is something that, because if we're talking about healthcare, we're talking about agriculture, we're talking about animal care, we're talking about all of that, all of it depends upon that connectivity, which is extremely critical for every Indian, no matter which village this person is living in. And since we are already committed to that, and we are already working towards all of those, even from the very basic perspective, what we were discussing before we came in, we are also manufacturing, those mobile devices on 4G, on which we enabled that, the network and the device we've optimized in a manner that we can reduce the price of the device to such an extent that a present 2G feature phone user is able to actually shift to 4G and get far more benefits than what he or she is getting today. And so that they can get connected, they can get connected to the world, which today they are not. So they can actually figure out what's happening in the world, because it helps to change. As I was trying to summarize, we're too large a country. We are too young a country. We're too rapidly growing a country to be depending upon external systems for manufacturing, to be depending upon other countries for manufacturing, to be depending upon a Belarus to be able to supply us those. So we are too rapidly growing to be depending upon somebody else. And we are too large a consuming country for that. And with all the kind of youth, young talent that we have in this country, I think the only way forward for all of us is we are dependent upon ourselves, we manufacture for ourselves, and we manufacture for the world. For that, whatever is required between the government and the industry and the academia to come together to make it happen, along with technology transfers as a part of that dollar which is coming into the country, I think that is going to be critical for all of us. It's too large to, it's a kind of a motherhood statement, but I think individually when we work on each of those components is when we'll be able to bring the whole big picture together.
Very well said, very well said. Thank you so much. Dr. Ravi, you said your company has been in India for 92 years, right? I don't want to, the next 100 years is too far along to think about it, but what do you think is going to happen in the next 10 years at least?
I was just thinking about that as everyone else was speaking. So I would love to see, we're at 100 billion now. I'd love to see us at $1 trillion in 10 years. It's not unreasonable. It's really not unreasonable. It can be done. So, and further, I would say localization of the entire ecosystem. You got people, materials, components, equipment, design, modeling and simulation, manufacturing, testing and reliability. Bring all that across the entire ecosystem, you'll achieve that.
Perfect, thank you. Rajiv, some last words from you.
So I think I echo, like we have to be 1 trillion, and to do that we have to have smart and resilient supply chains. So resilience, we have only one way, is that make in India, Atmanirbhar Bharat. That is the best resilience we can think of. And to do that, I think we all have to say, like we have proven to the world, we are very good assemblers. We have proven that in manufacturing, the most productive assembly we can do. But now we have to go deep into real manufacturing, wherein we manufacture components, we have our own R&D, we have our own power electronics, and we have all the ecosystem around that. And all our schemes, they are progressive so that tier 2 and tier 3 can also use those schemes. Then only we can have that ecosystem so that we have sustainability in our manufacturing systems.
Perfect, thank you. Thank you, everybody. I just want to, audience, 1 or 2 questions. Yeah. I'd like you to introduce yourself, your name, your company, and then ask your question, please.
Hello, everyone. My name is Vaibhav, and I'm the founder of WatchMe. It's a wearable device for kids and seniors. So we have made the algorithm, the OS, everything is ours. 50% Atmanirbhar hai. But in terms of manufacturing, it's like कि Nehru Place से PC components लेकर PC assemble किया, and we are installing Windows on it, and then we are selling computer. Okay, but the hardware part. Now on the hardware part, so I'm IT Kharagpur alumni. I've been working on it. निर्भया incident के बाद बहुत सोचा. मैं पूरी कहानी अभी यहाँ नहीं सुनाना चाहता. But hardware में 2 चीज आती है. We are a pre-revenue startup. It's a tracking device. घर के बाहर ही जरूरत है. कोरोना में मार्केट ही खत्म हो गया. अब उसके बाद पिछले से 1 साल हुआ है, स्कूल शुरू हुए हैं. So we are trying to catch our feet, जो है stand up on our feet. इसमें when we get on to the hardware side, तो we 50% आत्मनिर्भर हो गए. But hardware side में you try to get your own reference design, as I said, do our own R&D. The bottleneck is the license fees for the big manufacturers. जैसे MediaTek has about $500,000. They expect for the initial license fees, just so that we can start to use their processor. Same thing with Spectrum. Okay, I'm not even talking about Intel and others. Then when we come to importing and assembling here, as a MSME, and right now I'm a pre-revenue startup, so I'm a micro MSME. So I'm not a big company right now. अब वहाँ पे different, for example, EPR in terms of customs, for different components. For battery, I need to get a battery EPR. Battery plastic में cover होकर आएगी, customs का ये सर plastic का भी EPR लगेगा. तो how to do it? मतलब it's quite difficult to deal with that. We are, I would like to, with my folded hands, कि कुछ करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं, बट इतना ज़्यादा रेगुलेशन है इसमें कि वी आर रियली, मतलब अभी मेरा 1000 पीस इसमें आने वाला है, वी आर गोइंग टू लॉन्च इट. सो if we can think of R&D and let's say the hardware ecosystem where small startups who are trying to get into product, so they can make themselves totally atmanirbhar as far as the hardware is concerned. So that's what my initial.
So your specific question is, how do you manage with all of these regulations and as a small company? Maybe you need a PM Gati Shakti for them. Do you want any specific person to answer it, or?
Sorry, ma'am. So you have a specific concern regarding the EPR that Ministry of Environment and Forest provides for importing any of the devices. First thing is that they have listed out if I'm not wrong, 109 items for which EPR is required. So if your product falls under that domain, definitely they'll look for EPR authorization. Basically, it is that how e-waste would be disposed and who would be responsible over that. Coming to their second point is your plastic waste management. So both the rules are handled by Ministry of Environment and Forest. So as of now, if they have to create any kind of provision for micro SME, SME or MSME, or for any kind of provisions, so you have to take it up with them only. They would be the authority to say these industries should be exempted based on maybe on quantity, maybe on turnover, or maybe on for R&D or whatever purpose. So kindly take it up with them, send a communication to them. And if you want, you can send a copy to us also with all the details that why you should be exempted for that. So we'll be happy to take it with the with MOEF now. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm going to just take one more question. If there's some, anybody? No? Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much, all of you panel members. It's been a privilege, a really big privilege to host all of you here. Thank you from the audience, from the organizers and all of us. I think there's just one photograph and they want to hand over a memento to each one of you for being here.